Did you know that the first recorded game of baseball was played on June 19th, 1846? For reference, the Civil War was still about 15 years away, and at the time there were only 28 states in the United States. Baseball has been called America's pastime for well over a century, and a big part of that game is pitching. Pitchers throw balls to the opposing team that they then try to hit, score runs, and win the game. Pitchers throw the ball in a variety of ways called pitches to try to confuse the batters, making sure that they don't hit it and score runs and win. Pitches have changed dramatically since the first baseball game, and my hope is to demonstrate to you how a certain number of pitches are thrown. I have been a fan of baseball my entire life, and played it frequently throughout my childhood. Though I no longer play the sport competitively myself, I stay as up to date as possible as I can by watching pitchers in the major leagues, researching, reading books on the sport, researching online, just doing a lot of things to try to keep myself up to date on this topic. To some of you, this topic might not seem very interesting, and I definitely understand that. However, I want you to think about something. Have you ever, at any time in your life, seen something so amazing that you just wondered how on earth is that done? For me, pitching is like that a lot of the time. The way that some pitchers can make the ball move is just downright incredible. And I'm here to try to teach you a little bit about how they do that. I plan to show you how baseballs are gripped, the different arm movements required to execute a successful pitch, and the overall movement of the body. Together, we'll learn some of the secrets behind the seemingly mystical art of pitching. The first thing we're going to do is start by looking at some of the grips on the baseball, and I have brought a little prop with me. The main type of pitch thrown is called the fastball. There are two types of fastball. One is called a four-seam, the other is called a two-seam. We'll start with the four-seam because that's the most basic. A four-seam is thrown by placing the index finger and middle finger across this horseshoe part of the ball, as you can see there. The other fingers, the thumb goes directly underneath, and then the other fingers just kind of rest off to the side. This pitch is thrown straight over with no extreme wrist movements or anything like that, just straight up and down, and just travels directly towards the plate. It's generally the fastest pitch thrown, hence fastball. The other type of pitch is the two-seam fastball, which is slightly different. This is thrown by putting the index finger and middle finger across the narrow seams of the ball right there. Again, the other fingers just kind of rest on the bottom. However, this pitch is gripped a little bit tighter so that when it is released, the resistance that the ball faces, and due to the grip that you threw it with, the ball moves slightly towards the plate. This slight movement, though it may not appear to be much, can confuse and fool a lot of batters, making the pitch difficult to hit. It's just a little bit slower than the four-seam fastball, but still just as effective. The next main pitch that a lot of players grow up learning is called the curveball. This is thrown by placing the middle finger on the seam like so, and the pointer finger right over there, right next to it, and the thumb is placed on the back seam. So as you can see, it looks like that. This pitch is thrown differently than a curveball though. As you release the ball, the pointer and middle finger rotate down and the thumb slides up. When the ball is released like that, this wrist action causes the ball to curve as it goes towards the plate. This is a very difficult pitch for hitters to make contact on, but generally, because this pitch requires a little bit more wrist and arm movement, this is not usually taught to players until they're a little bit further developed in their playing careers. The last pitch I want to show you is called the changeup. This is thrown by taking the ring, middle, and pointer fingers and placing them over the ball like that. The thumb and pinky rest on the bottom. The ball is kind of cradled in the hand. This is really important because the changeup looks a lot like a fastball. As it approaches the plate, it just seems to be fast, but at the last second, because of the way the ball was gripped, there's some backspin on the ball, slowing it down at the last second. This fools a lot of hitters, causing them to swing early and just miss the pitch completely. Now that we have a look at some of the different types of pitches, we look at the arm angles from which a pitch is thrown from. The main and most common form of arm angle is the overhand arm. This just comes straight over the shoulder towards the plate. This is generally taught to most people because it puts the least amount of strain and stress on the body. The next most common arm angle is the sidearm delivery. The arm, rather than come straight over, comes more at a 90-degree angle towards the plate and is released that way. This can throw off a lot of hitters because they're used to the ball coming over, but when it comes from the side, the eyes have to adjust, and this can make it difficult. The final and least common pitching arm angle is the submarine pitch. The arm, rather than be at a 90 angle, is almost at a 45-degree angle to the ground. Not completely underhand, but 45 degrees, and the body is tilted, making the pitch look like a submarine rising from the water, coming from down to up. This really throws a lot of hitters off and makes the pitch difficult to hit as well. The reason this arm angle isn't taught to a lot of pitchers is because it puts a lot of strain and stress on the body. Not just the arm with that funky arm movement, but the rest of the body, the sides, are facing a lot of strain there. Now that we know the grips of the balls, the arm angles they come from, we can look at the overall movement of a pitch. I have here a little visual aid that I would like to show that describes the main portion, the main motions of a pitch. And I will show this to my lovely audience member over there. My wife is there. So as you can see, there are 6 phases. They are wind up, stride, arm cocking, arm acceleration, arm deceleration, and follow through. These are generally done very quickly, but each motion is very important. The wind-up starts with the pitcher just kind of loosening the body, just beginning to move, and as you can see here, they bring their leg up slightly. This kind of gets the leg loose and gets a lot of the energy coming up because, as I mentioned before, most of the power behind a pitch comes from the rest of the body, not the arm. Once you have the wind-up, there is the stride. The pitcher begins moving towards home plate. And while striding, the arm is cocking backwards. Because if you were to just stand here with your arm at your side and just throw the ball forward, you're not going to get it very far and it's not going to be very fast. But if you cock your arm back, you can get a lot more power behind it. The arm then accelerates, releases at the top, decelerates, and follows through. When this motion is done correctly, it's very quick, like I said, but all the power comes from the lower body into the arm, which then flings the ball towards home plate, making it difficult for the hitters to hit. So we've now looked at the grips that a ball can be thrown with, the arm angles that a pitch can be thrown from, and the body muscles and joints required and the movements required to execute a pitch. A lot of people think of pitching as really just an arm movement, which in fairness it is. It requires a lot of strength and energy from the arm. However, most of the pitching is actually done from the lower body as everything works together, kind of like a slingshot, to power that ball towards home plate. So pitching is really a unique sport, and as we've seen, pitches can be thrown in a variety of ways, making things very difficult for the opposing team. But really, when the right grip is working, when the right arm angle and the right movements are all there, any pitch thrown can be an incredible sight to see. Thank you.